Welcome back to another Thanksfree episode, the only show where we make fun of branding decisions so bad, they make you want to launch a PR department into the sun. Today, we're going on a deep, mildly judgmental journey through some of the worst product names in history. We're talking marketing blunders, cultural faceplants, and decisions that probably looked great on a whiteboard but aged worse than milk in a sauna. And hey, before we dive into this list of naming nightmares, be sure to subscribe. It won't save you from accidentally naming your next startup Moist.io, but it will make you smarter, funnier, and 3% more attractive. Legally, we can't back that up, but emotionally, we feel confident. Alright, let's talk about names. Names matter. Names stick. Names can make or break a product. And some companies, despite all their resources, research, and red flags, still manage to pick names that sound like a dare or a last-minute typo. Let's start with a classic, the Nintendo Wii U. If you remember the marketing campaign for this one, congratulations, you might be the only one. When Nintendo dropped the Wii U in 2012, it was supposed to be the successor to the massively popular Wii. The Wii sold over 100 million units. Everyone's grandma had a Wii. It was the most casually approachable gaming system since the Etch-a-Sketch. But then, the Wii U showed up. What went wrong? First, the name. The U confused people. Was it an add-on for the Wii? A new console entirely? A fancy remote? Even the box looked similar. Parents walked into stores and walked out without it because no one could explain what it actually was. Despite having some solid titles, Super Mario 3D World, Bayonetta 2, and the original Splatoon, the Wii U was a commercial flop. It sold around 13 million units total, less than the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 by a mile. Next on the Hall of Shame, the Chevrolet Nova. On paper, this car wasn't bad. It had a run from the 60s through the 70s and was reintroduced in the 80s in partnership with Toyota. In the US, the Nova was a reliable compact with a decent spec sheet. The 1970 Chevy Nova SS came with a 5.7-liter V8 pushing around 300 horsepower, not bad for the era. But when they tried to market the car in Spanish-speaking countries? Problems. You see, no VA in Spanish literally translates to doesn't go. That's right, Chevy tried to sell a car whose name implied it couldn't move. Which is not ideal for a vehicle. Now, to be fair, this particular naming blunder may be more urban legend than hard fact. Spanish speakers know context, and Nova as a name can be fine. But perception matters. And it became the symbol of not doing your linguistic homework before slapping a badge on a car. How about the Mitsubishi Pajero? Solid SUV. Rugged build. Known for off-road durability. In many markets, it came with a 3.2-liter diesel engine producing about 192 horsepower. But there was one little problem. In Spanish, Pajero is slang for, let's just say, someone who enjoys a lot of alone time. Like, a lot. It's not a word you'd want on the back of your car unless you were trying to start a very different kind of conversation. Mitsubishi eventually renamed it the Montero in Spanish-speaking countries, which was the PR equivalent of putting duct tape over a tattoo. Moving on to tech, Microsoft's Zune. Bless its heart. Released in 2006 to compete with the iPod, it actually had decent features. A 30 gigabytes hard drive, wireless syncing, and a screen that made watching videos less painful than you'd think. But Zune? It sounded like a noise your blender makes before it explodes. It didn't help that Microsoft dropped it right when Apple was hitting its absolute stride. The Zune wasn't a bad product. It was just cursed with a name that sounded like something your grandma would call her cat. Let's get into some food disasters, starting with Colgate kitchen entrees. Yes, you heard that right. Colgate, the toothpaste company, once tried to branch out into frozen dinners. Because nothing says appetizing like a beef stroganoff made by the people who bring you minty fresh breath. Unsurprisingly, these never made it past the market test phase. But the fact that someone somewhere approved packaging for Colgate lasagna is enough to give a branding expert heartburn. Speaking of food, we can't ignore the legendary Pepsi A.M. It was a soda designed to be drunk in the morning. Because nothing says rise and shine like a flat-tasting cola at 7 a.m. The idea was to market Pepsi as an alternative to coffee. But most people weren't ready to swap their morning brew for a can of sugar and regret. Unsurprisingly, Pepsi AM didn't stick around. Let's hop back into the car industry because oh boy, do they love weird names. The Mazda Laputa. It was a compact SUV mostly sold in Japan. But in Spanish, Laputa translates to, well, the prostitute. Yep. Imagine rolling up to a family barbecue in that. Mazda quickly realized their mistake and didn't export the car widely under that name, but it remains one of the all-time facepalm moments in naming history. And who could forget the Ford Probe? Sounds less like a sporty coupe and more like something your doctor does during an uncomfortable checkup. Ironically, it was a solid car. The 1993 GT model had a 2.5-liter V6 pushing 164 horsepower, pretty zippy for the time. But try getting excited about something called the Pro. It just never sounded right. Let's talk tech again, Apple's iPad. Yes, we know it's iconic now, but remember when it was first announced in 2010? People thought the name sounded like a menstrual product. Social media exploded with jokes. Apple finally releases a tablet you can't flush. Despite the rocky start, the iPad became one of Apple's best-selling devices, proving that a weird name can be overcome if your product is good enough. Still, probably not the reaction they were hoping for. Even luxury brands mess up. Take the Bentley Bentayga. Sounds more like a yoga position than a six-figure SUV. Excuse me, I'll be doing the Bentayga stretch before brunch. Despite the name, the Bentayga is actually a beast, with a 6.0-liter W12 engine pushing 600 horsepower and a 0 to 60 time of 3.9 seconds. That's sports car speed in a car the size of your kitchen. But the name? Still sounds like someone mispronouncing a city in the Himalayas. And finally, no list is complete without Isis chocolates. Yes, that was a real Belgian chocolate company. Beautiful packaging. Great reviews. But in 2014, a certain terrorist organization unfortunately adopted the same acronym. Sales plummeted. The company had to rebrand immediately. They eventually changed their name to Libert, but you can't ungoogle that history. So, what do we learn from this deliciously awkward mess of names? First, always test your product name in multiple languages. Second, think about how the name sounds, feels, and, let's be honest, what it might rhyme with. And third, no matter how great your product is, if the name makes people laugh for the wrong reason, you've got a problem. That's it for today's episode of Think Spree. If you enjoyed this wild ride through the land of bad branding, hit that like button, leave a comment with your favorite name fail, and make sure to subscribe. We've got more deep dives, product roasts, and naming nightmares coming your way. Until next time, name carefully, think globally, and please, don't call your new electric scooter the Buzzboy 9000. You're better than that.